Some of you slid in here, however that works this morning, but welcome and kind of a rough deal. So, request for bill introductions. Very good. Seeing none, we'll open the hearing on HB 2044, amending the definition of race in the Kansas Act Against Discrimination to include traits historically associated with race, including hair texture and protective hairstyles. And will the reviser, and I finally remembered to ask the reviser to give us an overview of this bill. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Under current law, the Kansas Human Rights Commission enforces the Kansas Act Against Discrimination. The commission investigates allegations of discrimination in employment, public accommodations, and housing because of race, religion, color, sex, disability, national origin, or ancestry. In the case that the commission finds that a person has engaged in any unlawful discriminatory practice, the commission must issue a cease and desist order and require the person to take remedial action. House Bill 2044 would amend the definition statutes of the Kansas Act Against Discrimination to define race to include traits historically associated with race, including hair texture and protective hairstyles. The bill would further define protective hairstyle to include braids, locks, and twists. House Bill 2044 would become effective upon publication in the statute book. And with that, I'd be happy to take any preliminary questions.
Thank you very much. Committee questions of the reviser. Representative Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So is this bill primarily about hairstyles?
It defines the term race to specifically, elaborates upon it to include hair texture and protective hairstyles.
Does it include anything, does it specifically include anything else?
It is only elaborating the categories of hair texture and protective hairstyles.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Jacobs.
Does this bill mention baldness?
Well, it defines race to include traits historically associated with race, including hair texture and protective hairstyles. But I have nothing additional to
Thank you, Mr.
say.
Chair.
All right, committee, further questions of the reviser? Seeing none, thank you. Okay, I don't see Senator Godot out there, House Godot. So next we'll move to Glenda Du Bois. Is she here? Oh, she's
yes, good morning,
WebEx.
sir.
Okay, very good.
I am. Yes,
Thank
good morning.
you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chairman Carpenter, and you, the members of the House Committee on Federal and State Affairs. I appreciate this opportunity this morning to speak in support of House Bill 2044 on behalf of AARP Kansas. Again, I'm Glenda Du Bois, and I am the State Director. All people have a fundamental right to be free from discrimination. Various civil rights laws protect this right. These laws prohibit many forms of discriminatory conduct. For example, discrimination may be prohibited on the basis of age, race, gender, ethnicity, religion, and disability. Anti-discrimination laws also cover sexual orientation, gender identity, or other forms of group identity. Discrimination can take many forms. Valuable opportunities or benefits such as work, credit or public or private goods, or service may even be denied to members of a protected class. Hate crimes can target people based on their age, their gender, their race, or other protective classes. Some seemingly neutral practice may have a disparate impact on certain groups. For example, hiring practices can effectively result in age discrimination.
She's not online.
Policymakers should protect and enforce the fundamental right of all people to be free from discrimination. They should eliminate practices that target specific groups discrimination, and exploitation. Therefore, we respectfully request your support of House Bill 2044. So thank you for holding this hearing today. And again, thank you for allowing me to attend virtually. Thank
Very
you,
good.
sir.
Thank you for being here. Committee questions? Seeing none, thank you again for your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Committee, we are on down the road. Is Stacy here? Stacy, welcome to committee.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad I made it. I literally just got here. My name is Stacy Nell. I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission. I've submitted some written testimony. I just want to talk and tell my own story. So as you can tell, I'm a Black woman. As you can tell, I have twists in my hair. And I remember the day that I decided to go natural with my hair. I have two small children. They have extremely curly hair. And a little bit of background about myself. Up until 2020, I was a stay-at-home mom and I homeschooled my children. So we ran in some pretty conservative, pretty, circular, insular communities. And I remember when my older daughter was about 2 years old, she had, no, maybe 3 or 4 years old, she had gone to a birthday party and we got pictures back from the birthday party. And even I was struck how she looked so different from all the other kids in that picture with her big curly hair. And as a 3-year-old, you can't tame a 3-year-old. No one wants their hair combed. So it was just big and curly. And all her friends had this straight, straight hair. At the time, I was relaxing my hair and wearing my hair in extensions, but they were straight with a little bit of a wave to it. And I remember she came home that day and she said, at one point, she was like, "Mommy, I want hair like yours. I want princess hair." And I don't think the sentence was done coming out of her mouth before I was like, oh, I need to change my hair. I need to change my hair and stop straightening my hair. I need to change my hair and stop chemically relaxing it, putting straight things in my hair. Because my child, at that point, I was like, my child needs to see someone in her life who's got hair that looks closer to hers. She needed to know that she was beautiful. She needed to know that she was valuable. She needed to know that the way God had made her, the way God had knit her together in my womb, was the way God intended for her to look. So that day I said, that's it, no more straightening my hair. Even if I put extensions in my hair, no more straight hair, no nothing. So fast forward a little further on, I decided to run for state senate. Maybe some of you didn't know that I was recently a candidate for state senate. And I know you have all run campaigns, and I would be willing to bet none of you considered, what am I going to do with my hair? Did any of you consider, sir, what were you going to do? Oh, with your hair? I know. But for me, it was a deep consideration. What am I going to do with my hair? How am I going to wear my hair? Am I going to straighten my hair? I tell you, there are Black women who have run for office recently who made decisions about how they're going to prepare their hair. Now, I chose to go with the hair that comes out of my head, which was a thing for me to say, I'm going to put this black face with this natural hair on walk cards and send it into Gardner and DeSoto. But you know what? I did it because my daughters needed to see that the way the Lord had made me, the way that God has hair coming out of my head, it is professional. It is acceptable. It is worthy to be displayed, and that should not be discriminated against. I could go into stories of people who are facing discrimination over their hair, but I just wanted to tell you my personal story, that these are considerations that people are making. These are things that conversations that women are having about, can I stand here and give testimony in front of the House Committee on Federal and State Affairs with my natural hair? Yeah, I can, right? I have great hair. People tell me all the time they love my hair. So I do support this bill and hope that you would add this language into the Anti-Discrimination Act. Thank you.
Very good. Committee questions. Representative Hauser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 3 words for you. Celebrate your uniqueness. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Moser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for one of the most inspirational testimonies I've heard in the last 3 terms that I've been here. It's not a question. I just wanted to thank you for one of the most inspirational testimonies I've heard in my time here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Howell.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Stacy. I very much appreciate your testimony also. As a very curly-haired person, I relate in a small way to what you're discussing. And I was just wondering if you would be willing to just explain to people who have straight hair why a protective hairstyle matters, how it is important, why is it important for people with curly or ethnic hair?
Well, for me, the protective hairstyle, honestly, like even for example, this morning, the time I had to leave my house in order to try to get here with the weather, it's just quicker for me. It's easier to pay to I know what my hair is going to do on any given day. But for a lot of people, protective hairstyles are just that, they're protective. I actually have quite a bit of hair, but if it's dry in the wintertime, it's easier for me to put it in a protective hairstyle. It takes care of the hair. I don't have to manipulate my hair. It takes care of these are things that maybe some people don't ever pay attention to. If you have split ends or if you want to have healthy hair and grow it out. So there are a lot of different hairstyles that are more protective. I think the language in this bill is seeking to protect hairstyles that are more commonly connected with the African American population. For example, twists, cornrows, braids, locks, things of that nature. Because these are the types of hairstyles that are more commonly discriminated against. Now, having said that, I do fully understand that there are plenty of people who have curly hair who face the same, this idea of being able to embrace one's curly hair and have it seen as being professional. Because honestly, I know plenty of white women who contact me and say, okay, where do you go get your child's hair cut? What products do you use? Where there are white people who've asked me questions because they too are trying to fully embrace that this is the hair that the Lord has given them, rather than trying to fight the battle of, well, let me get up early and blow it dry and flat iron it and do, all these various things to just sort of wrestle their hair into what society deems as appropriate. But this bill specifically is dealing with hairstyles that are more commonly worn by African Americans.
Very good. Thank you for that. Committee, I remiss in my duties to represent Representative Shu here, filling in for Representative Ruiz. And so welcome him to committee. And he also has a question. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Stacey, I just wanted to thank you for telling your story. I think everybody here knows I have a 3.5-year-old daughter who has straight dark hair like me. But if she could otherwise she would watch Frozen 24/7. So right now we're having a lot of conversations with her about beauty, right? She always is asking, well, I want white hair like Elsa. And then I always have to try to ingrain in her, no, your own hair is beautiful. The hair that you're born with is beautiful. Astra is beautiful. You don't have to strive to be like Elsa. And so I just wanted to reaffirm what you are saying, that blackness and black hair is beautiful. And then thank you for telling your story.
Thank you.
Representative Howell, did I miss you?
I wasn't very clear. I apologize, Chair. I just wanted to say I think you have princess hair.
Oh, thank you. Tell Disney. Okay.
Representative Garber.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony, Stacey. Not really a question, but more of a comment. I see this as a prejudicial issue. And the unfortunate thing is, and I'm going to support it more than likely, but the unfortunate thing is we can't legislate away prejudice. And I think you understand that by hearing your testimony, but I wish you luck in everything you do.
Thank you.
And I like your hair.
Thanks. Yes, I understand that it's not possible to legislate the human heart. We can't legislate evil. We can't legislate prejudice. But I think it makes a stand for saying that Kansas recognizes that these prejudices exist and that you're taking the time to put it in statute to say that these prejudices are not acceptable and that they will not be, will not be allowed. I think if A lot of times in this body, I hear people talking about workforce issues and retainment and attraction of talent. So to have this put down, to say that there's a person who looks like me who's looking for a job in Kansas with my hair, or if they have locks or twists, to know that they will not face discrimination, is a powerful statement that we can make for people who are either growing up here in Kansas and maybe trying to find a job, or for outside people who are thinking of settling in Kansas.
Thank you for that. Committee, further questions? Representative Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you being here today and your testimony. Of course, as you already know, it's illegal to discriminate against Black people and whatnot. If this passes, would you feel more protected? Do you feel the need to be more protected than you already are?
Yes, I would feel more protected. There are a lot of things that make me feel either safe or not safe, or protected or more protected, but having this would make me feel more protected, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Committee, further questions? Very good, Stacy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, we skipped over the senator, but she's here now. And Senator, welcome to committee. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Carpenter, Vice Chair Kessler, and Ranking Member Hoy, and other members of the House Fed and State Committee. It's certainly an honor to be back here again. I served on this committee when I was in the House. And over in the Senate, I have introduced this legislation for the past 3 years. So I want to thank Representative Stephanie Clayton for introducing House Bill 2044, and I urge your support. I do agree, I concur with the statements that Stacy Nell, the director of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission, has made. Even myself this morning with the weather, I thought about what I would do to my hair this morning. And so I've just worn mine straight today. My hair is naturally straight because of the biracial parents I have. However, my daughters, every morning getting up to get them ready to go to school, we would always have to get up earlier to do their hair to get them to school on time. Mr. Chairman, some of the questions that have been posed today, you are correct. This discrimination against race, creed, where you want to live, where you want to go to school, those issues already exist in the law. My initial reason for introducing the legislation, Mr. Chairman, was because I don't know if many of you saw on the news where a young Black wrestler with long dreadlocks was humiliated. And he, in the middle of his gym at school where spectators were on either side of the gym, and he was told that he could not wrestle in that match that day with his long braids. He wasn't given the choice to put them back in a ponytail or secure them perhaps with those old time swimming caps we used to use. And he wasn't given the opportunity to go in the locker room. Right in the middle of that gym, the referee cut his braids off that he had worn for years, part of his culture. And tears were running down his eyes. That wasn't right. Also, Mr. Chairman, I have documents from African American women who have been terminated, fired from their employment because they were told they didn't fit the dress code of how the standard of those employers said that they should wear their hair. So I don't think it's right that you should be fired or prevented from participating in a sporting activity at your school where you want to feel included and you want to feel like you belong. Um, I don't want to feel that I can't come, and every day I've been here now for 18 years, give or take, where people comment on my hair. Sometimes I wear it up, down, and they'll say, "Well, what kind of hairstyle is that today?" I'm like, I really don't have answers. One day I said it's the Shirley Temple hairstyle. I don't know. But people just want to be natural. They want to be who they are and wear their hair the way that they want to. But for me, Mr. Chairman, there's a new reason. Lately, I don't know how many of you have seen on the television, on the news, where straightening your hair, the chemicals that are in the straightener for Black women to straighten their hair, it is now causing cancer. They have determined it causes cancer. It's been documented and proven. So it's a health concern as well, Mr. Chairman. Um, there's been opposition to this legislation over in the Senate for the past 3 years. I've received hearings, although the bill has not made it out of the Senate, out of the committee. We have worked with others, the Kansas Human Rights Commission. We have worked with individuals, Michelle Watley with Kitchen Cabinet, to change some of the language to make it a better bill. Again, this is passed in many states. I'm hoping that it will pass here in the state of Kansas. Again, my new reason, because it's a health concern and one should not feel that they have to, I don't know, Mr. Chairman, I might say you have to wear a cowboy hat every day to be a legislator, a lawmaker. We don't want that. And so for that reason, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm here today to ask to urge your strong support for House Bill 2044. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Thanks, Senator. Representative Epley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Senator, I really appreciate you bringing this issue to our committee and your testimony. Thank you. I want to go back to what you said in your testimony, and that is other states. I was curious if you know how many other states have passed the Crown Act, and states in our area. It just helps put it in context for me in our Midwestern area. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question. Currently, there are about 13 states. We have been working with Dove, the Dove soap. They have been going around to different states and helping to enact this legislation. There, Nebraska, we always ask the question, what are other surrounding states doing in our state to compare? So Nebraska, Colorado, just to name two, but 13 that I know of have passed into law. And actually, I had that information on my desk to bring. And I had Mr. Chairman, I will submit to the committee later the evidence of the hair straightening causing cancer. And it has the other states mentioned. But I got out of the parking lot off the elevator and came right here. So
Thank you,
thank you.
Senator. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Bryce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. I am happy to hear about the bill that may help reduce discrimination, prejudice, racism, and I think we're all for that. I just have to look at unintended consequences and make sure we're not overlooking unintended consequences. For instance, I've worked in places where a certain hair length or a certain hairstyle was not allowed due to safety concerns. I know in the military, other places, there are rules about hairstyles, hair length, and I'm wondering if there's anything in this bill that would prohibit an employer from regulating hairstyle, hair length, for safety concerns for the employee. And this is not a moot concern. I work in emergency departments. I've seen people get their hair caught into machinery in horrible accidents. So I'm just wondering about the potential unintended consequences. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I'm glad you asked that question. And I know that Michelle Watley will have some great comments of factual information to share with that. And the representative here today from the Kansas Human Rights Commission will address that issue as well. However, Representative, current law already requires that if I work at Denny's late at night, that I've got to wear a hairnet. If I'm a construction worker, I've got to wear a hard hat. That already exists. And that employer, if they apply for those particular jobs, they have to automatically abide by current law. This legislation is simply saying that you will not deny me to play on the football team. Although, Mr. Chairman, I just watched the Chiefs game, the Super Bowl. Half of those guys, the braids were hanging out of their football helmets. And, I was going to try to get Mahomes to come and testify in favor of this bill because of his hair. But, we're in the 21st century now and beyond. And some of our old standards, just like if I have a lot of tattoos on, we shouldn't allow those things. We are a body that says we want you to go to work. And it shouldn't be where we want you to go to work, but we want you to wear your hair this way or dress that way. And so those concerns, that was one of the first issues when the first hearing took place in the Senate Federal and State Affairs Committee, Representative, because one of the other senators owned a construction company, and he brought up the point of he didn't want guys to get hurt on the machinery and have the hard hat on, but that already exists and you can already do something about that. But this particular issue that a lot of the people in my district, I represent about 74,000 people, and I've heard about this issue over and over and over. And so we just simply want to allow you to come to work with your natural hair and wear it the way you want to. But if you choose, Mr. Chairman, to seek employment at those places that the representative may be speaking of, there are already provisions in place to address those issues. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Committee, I again ask for your support for House Bill 2044.
Senator, I have one more representative has a question for you. Representative Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator, for coming over and giving your testimony. So if this is your third attempt at this, obviously you feel very passionate about it. I'd be interested in knowing what language you've changed from the last couple of years to make this bill more likely to pass.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, thank you for the question. And I know the other conferees that still need to speak will address that specifically. But since you asked, originally there was a word in there that said race. And that word, to be quite honest, was offensive to my colleagues on the Senate committee. Therefore, we changed the word, I think, in this bill, and I don't have it in front of me, but to ancestry. And that will be addressed by one of the other conferees, Mr. Chairman.
That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We have one more question.
Thank you.
Senator, one more. Representative Bueller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. Trying to process the information here and in reading the text of the bill. So when we talk about hair or hairstyles historically associated with race. So for example, if a person, an Asian American of Asian descent, had a hairstyle typically associated, as was described earlier, with someone of African American, would that person be protected?
Absolutely. That was addressed as well, because nowadays, Mr. Chairman, a lot of our young millennials, they want to wear their hair orange and green and red and so forth, and however they want to wear it. Some, we even talked about those with religious beliefs and wore, the garments on their head. So all of it would be included, Representative, and that is our goal, that all hairstyles, whoever would like to wear their hair. Representative Humphreys and I traveled together this summer, and we came down to breakfast together, and we looked like, we came down for coffee real quick. And however our hair was, I mean, we shouldn't be denied to have attended the meeting of how that was. So, it's always interesting, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, Ranking members, that when we do get new lawmakers, you do want to get the facts on these issues, and I'm sure, Mr. Chairman, that a couple of the conferees still waiting to speak before you can address some of those issues in more detailed factual information. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Oh, Boo,
Yeah, this is just more of a
you're
comment.
not out of here yet.
Just more of a comment. I just want to make sure we understand. I mean, you mentioned young people wearing orange and green hair, but I think the way the statute is written is clearly it doesn't apply to that situation. Is that accurate?
Excuse me, say that again.
I mean, you mentioned that the idea of young people wanting to wear their hair with different colors, and the way I read this bill is not applicable to that. Would you say that's correct?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, if you want to add that in when you work the bill, that'd be fine. Thank you.
That was mine. I just wanted to make sure that people on the committee knew that this would not prevent an employer from asking people not to wear their hair in different colors.
Yes. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the last time. Thank you, Senator. Next, we have Michelle Watley. Michelle, welcome to committee.
Good morning, and thank you, Chairman Carpenter and members of the committee, for providing the opportunity for me to speak in support of House Bill 2044, also known as the Crown Act, creating an open and respectful world for natural hair. My name is Michelle Watley, and I'm the founder of Shirley's Kitchen Cabinet. We are a nonpartisan nonprofit based here in Kansas and Missouri, named for Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman to run for Congress and win, and the first Black woman to run for president on a major party ticket. We work to amplify the voices and power of Black women in this region so they can be better advocates on behalf of the issues that matter to them. When I started the organization in 2018, we did surveying of Black women in the region and found that the number one issue impacting Black women was economic prosperity, not only a living wage, but childcare and entrepreneurship. Black women in this region are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, and we want to do everything that we can to support them. And in supporting them, we are also in support of the Crown Act. As is mentioned, the Crown Act seeks to amend the definition of race to include hairstyles like locks, braids, and twists. What we're finding across the state and across the nation is that Black women, men, and children, other communities of color, are being locked out of opportunities for employment, joining the workforce, being allowed to be in school, children as young as 4 and 5 being suspended and sent home, all for the hairstyles that they wear. On the surface, these policies seem to impact everybody, but when you have in your policies specific hairstyles, it only impacts a certain group of people. And we want to make sure that all Kansans have access to employment, to growing the economy, and education. And when you look at it on the surface, it looks like just a hair bill, but it is a bill about our economy, employment, and education, and the impact. A number of conferees mentioned the issue of health. Black women often take a number of steps to mitigate issues around being fired or suspended or sent home from work. One of the main ways Black women work to mitigate those issues is to use what we call chemical relaxers. A chemical relaxer is a chemical made of lye and other dangerous chemicals that's put on the hair to permanently straighten the hair and change the texture of the hair. This chemical can cause degree burns of up to 2 and 3 degrees. And the chemical has most recently been found to cause cancer, uterine cancer and breast cancer, increasing the risk of cancer by 80%. Black women are taking the risk of getting breast cancer and uterine cancer by 80%, all to keep their hair straight and adhere to these policies. When we look at the economy and employment, a report by the Kansas Chamber of Commerce, written in 2020 and then revised in 21, says that if we do not find innovative ways to grow our workforce and attract talent, we will see a decline in our workforce over the next decade. One of their recommendations was that in order to attract talent, we need to give the perception that Kansas is supportive of workers, that we value workers, and that we value the diversity that they bring. This act could go a long way in showing that. When you look at our top competitors in the region, states in our region that are our top competitors for workforce talent and growing the economy, most of those competitors have already passed the Crown Act, with Minnesota signing the bill into law just a couple weeks ago. 20 states have passed the Crown Act: Alaska, New Mexico, Nebraska, Colorado, Tennessee, places that you wouldn't imagine would be up on this issue are reading the tea leaves and want to ensure that they have a workforce that can reflect the communities that they serve. The military has also changed its rules to allow for these hairstyles while adhering to dress codes and safety concerns. A question was raised earlier: would this bill prevent an employer from being able to adhere to safety and health regulations that may be imposed? As a former carpenter with the Carpenters Union, I worked for J.E. Dunn Construction for a number of years. My first job was a Nebraska Furniture Mart here in Kansas. Wyandotte County was one of my jobs. My last job was the H&R Block headquarters in the Kansas City, Missouri side. By the end of my tenure as a carpenter, I had been asked to be a superintendent. I would have been the first Black female superintendent in J.E. Dunn's history. I've led crews. I have adhered to the safety standards while wearing braids, locks, and twists. I never got my hair caught in a table saw or a drill. And because I was allowed to wear these styles, braids, I was able to more easily adhere to those safety standards. And so we don't want to impose any laws or rules that would make it harder for business owners to be able to go about their business. Most of our supporters are entrepreneurs. It would be in conflict with our work to impose those type of laws. But we're hoping to ensure that they can grow their workforce and not X out people for arbitrary rules like hairstyles. We're hoping that you work the bill. If the Chiefs can get us to a Super Bowl with those players like Patrick Mahomes wearing curly locks and twists and braids, and they can get us to a Super Bowl without injury or harm, if our armed forces, in which we have more than 21,000 Kansans who are part of the armed forces, if they can protect and serve and put their lives on the line while wearing braids, locks, and twists, surely we can, as a state, ensure that employers can pave the way for people of color, Black people, Native Americans, Afro-Latinos to participate in our economy without discrimination. I'm happy to answer any questions. We're hoping that you work the bill, and thank you for your time today.
Very good. Representative Clayton.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being here today. I know that we will have one verbal neutral, but having looked at some of the neutral testimony, I think some of the best things that happen in this building are done when we work together and when we compromise. And so I'm not sure if you've spoken with any of the neutral parties, but would you be willing to make any changes to this or to work with them to kind of come to a place where we've got employers that are more comfortable with this? Tell us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I have had the pleasure of talking with many of you on this committee to see what the concerns are and see if there are ways we can address them to ensure that this bill has the impact that we intend. But we've also talked to the Kansas Chamber of Commerce and the Kansas Society for Human Resource Professionals. And in talking with them, we have been working to find language that would address the concerns of business owners. From my stand, the way the bill is written as is would not create additional liabilities for employers. employers. What we're asking is that employers not make rules that specifically call out those specific hairstyles. And what you'll find is a lot of employers do not have those rules, but some do. And so in passing this bill gives them the opportunity to proactively review their grooming policies to make sure that they're not unintentionally Xing people out or creating situations where people can't participate. But we are willing to look at language. There's been language passed in other states that addresses those concerns. And in our discussions, we found that there is a path to yes, and they have come to the table, and we have come to the table to figure out what that is. So we are more than willing to work with the chamber, the human resource professionals, and any other entity that wants to come to the table to find a path forward.
Very good. Thank you for that. Committee, further questions? Thank you very much, Michelle, for being here.
Thank you.
Next, by WebEx, we have Liz Mathiel. She's the teacher for the students that were going to be here today that are not going to be here today because of the weather. So anyway.
Hi, committee. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning. I apologize that we're not there. My colleague, Mr. Drew, and I were supposed to be there with 30 students, all of whom have been following this legislation, and we're very eager to spend time with you and talk with you. As you can see, I'm in class right now with my sophomores. We were bringing juniors and seniors, so the students that I have in my room right now, we've been watching the hearing and are very, very grateful for the speakers who have come before me. I am going to, all I'm going to do is summarize the thoughts of the students that also submitted written testimony because they're in physics class and algebra class and they can't be here. So I'm just serving as a conduit for their voices for right now. Although I'd love to, I know that they would too. I'd love to shout out the people who've come before because they've clearly articulated the major issues that make us all want to support this bill. So my students who wrote testimony, and when we discussed it in class, they across the board were in support of HB 2044. We've had many thought-provoking discussions, and as always, I've learned more from them than they learned from me. And they shared a lot of stories with me about being told that they had to fix their hair or change their hair in order to get a job, or that they were threatened to be fired if they didn't fix their hair. I know you already know the basics of this argument. Maintaining hair to Eurocentric standards is time-consuming, expensive. It's dehumanizing to equate somebody's skills or manners or habits to an outsider's prescribed maintenance of their hair. And we know that there is in real time discrimination in Kansas because it's literally in manuals for employers, in descriptions of how hair needs to look or how employees need to dress or present themselves. And that's kind of those are the explicit reasons that we feel that HB 2044 needs to be passed onto the floor for a larger vote. But in addition to that, we want the students, if they were there, would tell you that this is just another way to show that the legislature, that the people who are in charge of policy making in the state of Kansas have their backs and are trying to create a more equitable playing field for all young people in our state. And we ask that you support this legislation. And I think that if you serve the students who are marginalized well, then you serve all of us well. And with that, I will stop.
Very good. Committee questions. Representative Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to say thank you for organizing the students and for this opportunity. I'm sorry the weather didn't cooperate, but just send to them our appreciation for their participation and willingness to come. I know they wanted to be here to speak with us and be a part of this process. And so let them know we have their testimony and they are being heard, and maybe we can kick it out and they'll have the chance to come back and visit with the Senate.
Very good.
We'll still come. We just are going to miss this hearing. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Seeing no more questions, thank you for being here. Okay. You see the names of the folks who are going to be here to testify on here now, and also the names of the written proponents. And now we have a neutral. Oh, is Anita here? Oh, very good. Thank you for coming in today and braving the weather.
Thank you. I did call this morning to see if you had rescheduled this hearing, and she said nope, so I started scraping ice off my car. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee, for having me here today. My name is Anita Alexander. I live here in Topeka, and I'm here today as a Black woman and as a Kansan. The stories we hear in the news about hair discrimination aren't limited to those few awful stories that we see make national headlines. Hair discrimination is something that regularly happens. And even when people have earned their way into professional spaces, which is something I can personally attest to. I've been places where I've told my braids were not professional. I've been told that I probably didn't know what I was talking about when wearing my hair in braids. I've, in contrast, been told that my hair looks so nice when it's straight. And all of these things impact us as women, as people of color, when we wear hairstyles that are traditionally tied to race. And one moment. So I know a lot of times it can be hard to understand something that you've never been personally impacted by. And I looked at the members of this committee, and there's few of you who have been impacted by this type of racial discrimination. So I hope that you will hear my testimony today as someone who is personally impacted by this issue. People of color can feel and see the difference of the way that they're received when they wear their hair in different ways. And it's why you've heard so many people before me talk about that decision of what am I going to do with my hair today because of where I'm going. And sometimes it can cost people jobs. Sometimes it costs them opportunities. But it regularly makes people question how they can wear their hair. And they shouldn't be denied protections for such a basic right. Actually, by not providing this protection, it's kind of an undermined way to allow discrimination. And I know this bill has come up for multiple years, and I'm kind of surprised that it continues to come up. So I just want to urge you guys to vote yes on this bill. It's your job to stand up for citizens, and I hope you will do that today. So I strongly support 2044, and I hope you will too. And I will stand for questions when appropriate.
Very good. Thank you for being here. Representative Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I just want to remind you that things aren't always as they seem, and there may be members of this committee who are impacted by this.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Committee, further questions? Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Ruth. Ruth, welcome.
Good morning. I'm Ruth Glover. I'm with the Kansas Human Rights Commission, and we enforce the Kansas Act Against Discrimination. We're neutral on this bill, but we just wanted to provide some information to you. We accept complaints of discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodation. So that means that we protect people where they work, where they live, and where they consume goods and services that are offered to the public. We're neutral on the bill because on one hand, the protections are already in law. We can already accept complaints of discrimination associated with someone's race if it involves their hair. We also envision that individuals could file complaints if they had criticisms or some type of adverse action related to the hair because of their ancestry, their national origin, sex, religion, or disability. The main, so on one hand, where the protections are already in the law. On the other hand, it would certainly increase awareness if those words that are in the bill are actually in print. The one thing we wanted to make sure you knew is that we are not a solution for school children. There's a Kansas Supreme Court ruling from 1988 that says that our public accommodations does not extend to school children. So our recommendation, at least for your thought or for the proponent's thought, is if they want to extend these protections to school children, that there be thought given to amending the Kansas Anti-Bullying Act at KSA 72-6147. So that's just what we wanted to let you know, is that we're not a resource for children. If we receive complaints involving students, right now we refer those individuals to the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, or back to their school or to their school district. I'd be glad to answer any questions. Also, if individuals are aware of people who have been discriminated against because of their hair, because of a protected class, we would encourage them to contact us about filing a complaint, or the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or there are many cities that also have human relations commissions to contact those commissions. And, you know, if someone wants to send an employer manual that has discriminatory language in it, we'd be glad to receive that language and send a friendly letter as education.
Very good. Thank you for that. Representative Burkham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for your testimony. Over here.
Okay.
Are you aware of any instances where a complaint's been filed with your office, or you've handled one that the existing statute didn't handle that this proposed change would?
We have not had any complaints filed with us regarding hair. I checked with U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission a couple of years ago, and the only case that they knew of in Kansas was someone who had pink or purple or green hair, and they felt that they were disciplined more severely than a person of a different race who also had pink or purple or green hair. And when the EEOC investigated, both people were treated in the same manner. But that's, you know, the pink or purple or green hair is not going to be covered by this act. But what's going to be covered is whether or not people of different races are treated in an equitable manner.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Representative Hastwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you said this is an impact K through 12, right? Would this also impact our higher education student population?
We don't have jurisdiction over students in school settings or university settings. So if there's some type of interaction, some type of bullying with students, with school teachers, a school administrator, we don't have jurisdiction over that. And like I said, we refer individuals who contact us about that to the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, or back to their school or to their school district. So a wrestler who has been denied the opportunity to wrestle because of hair locks, because someone's been denied the opportunity to walk across the graduation stage because of their locks, we don't have jurisdiction over that.
Thank you. And I just have a comment, if I may. So adding on to this, during the Tokyo Olympics too, we saw that swimming caps were banned. That specifically was for African American hairstyles and textures. And then in Oklahoma, a Native American student's braid was cut off. So, with the part of religion and how this bill does that protection, it helps our Afro-Indigenous folks as well. And I'm Navajo, so for my culture, our hair has so much significant meaning, and why we choose to keep it long and keep it in Indigenous hairstyles. So I really appreciate how the bill, not only protects our African American brothers and sisters' hair texture, but also helps impact all of us who have cultural significance to our hair. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Representative Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So thank you for your testimony. Am I understanding you to say that if this bill passes, it would make no material changes to what already exists?
It wouldn't have any, we don't anticipate that it would have any impact to our workload or how we enforce our laws. Because like I said, we already accept complaints of discrimination based on race, ancestry, national origin, sex, disability, that could involve some component of allegations about hair. And the EEOC has also put forth language that talks about hair and how individuals should be treated equitably based on their race or their natural hairstyles. So, but as I said, even though we can accept those complaints, on the other hand, it certainly raises awareness if it's in print.
Okay, so basically then this is about getting publicity for this issue. Would that be a fair statement?
I don't think that that's a fair characterization. I can't say the word. Characterization. Individuals have their concerns, and they're bringing those concerns to you, and so they're asking you to put that in public policy to make it better known.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of questions if I can. When we talk about protective hairstyles, braids, twists, locks, are those explicitly listed and linked to the definition of race?
In House Bill 2044, it is specifically related to race.
Correct. I'm speaking of currently outside of this bill that we're talking about.
Oh, it's in EEOC policy, in compliance and guidance policy. I provided some information to you, and on the second page of that information, it talks about the EEOC compliance manual on race and color discrimination, and it talks about how policies need to be applied uniformly. It does talk about that employers can impose neutral hairstyle requirements regarding that hair be neat, clean, and well-groomed, and that would also take into account any safety considerations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, the reason I asked the question is I think there was a question about the number of complaints, and if Kansas don't know that their protective hairstyles, braids, locks, and twists are protected, then maybe they don't know to go and file those complaints. Mm-hmm. And I think this bill addresses that and gives them that explicit information to know that those protective hairstyles are protected. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We include in our harassment training, our online harassment training discussion specifically about hairstyles according to race. So we're trying to get the word out, but like I said, on one hand, we've already got rules against it, but on the other hand, having that in print certainly would raise awareness of the issue.
Representative Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the statements that you made kind of brought up a question in my mind. So you talked about the words neat, clean, and well-groomed. By whose standards, right? So is there some sort of a definition? What is neat? What does clean? What does well-groomed mean? Because, if we look at it this way, we could make all manner of assumptions. And so is there any more of a set definition when it comes to that? Who decides?
Well, the EEOC puts forth that as long as the rules respect racial differences and hair textures and are applied even-handedly.
Very good. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes the hearing on 2044, House Bill 2044. We will begin working the Tobacco 21 bill, House Bill 2269. Somebody want to make a motion?
We make a motion after we have discussed the bill.
Right. Discussion on the bill. Representative Epley.
Mr. Chair, would you like a motion for? Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to move that we pass out House Bill 2069 favorably for passage.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second by Representative Hoy. Discussion on the bill. Representative Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This seems very straightforward. I think this is a definite yes.
Any further questions? Seeing none. Representative, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I close.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Division. All in favor say aye. Raise their right hand. Okay. This is our deal. Against, raise your right hand. Bill passes 19-3. Okay, very good. Representative Heiberger wants his bill recorded. Anybody else want their yes vote recorded? Representative Hoy. Representative Epley. Representative Sanders. Okay, very good. Representative Hauser and Representative Jacobs both want their no's recorded. Very good. Thank you for that, gentlemen. Representatives. Okay, committee, we are adjourned. We will see you on the floor here in a little bit, and we'll be here next Tuesday. So see you then.